happy Friday, first and foremost, everybody. This has become my favorite day of the week for now, yet another reason, because of Defender Fridays. Those of you that have been joining us for quite a while, you already know what the name of the game is here, right? The concept is bringing together like-minded folks in the information security industry. Yes, with an emphasis on defense, but as you know, offense informs defense and all that fun stuff. So we're open to all folks from all backgrounds, all skill sets. And the idea is bringing on folks that are making waves and innovations in information security. And I cannot emphasize enough how strongly our guest fits that profile today. We've got Haroon Meer on, who is the founder and researcher at Thinkst, which I would hope by now, Thinkst is kind of a household name. I think everyone in our space probably at least is familiar with Thinkst, or even ideally you've tinkered with their stuff. So Thinkst is very kind of strong, I would say probably the predominant provider of deception technologies. So thinking things around Canaries and honeypots and CarnaryTokens and things like that. But Haroon, I'm gonna really fanboy you guys here for a minute. One of my favorite things about Thinkst isn't just that, yes, they've got a phenomenal set of product offerings, and I have used them at scale. I think I was at one point probably one of their busier customers. But what I absolutely love about Thinkst is they provide so much of their tech for free and open source. So if you have not used their stuff, it's not because of budget requirements. It's like you can literally go and create their Canary tokens for free on their website, deploy those across your network, and use those as little snares to catch adversaries that are poking around inside of sensitive documents or opening, the CFO's inbox and going through emails. And that's just brilliant. Like, Haroon, I think it's amazing what you guys have done by making that for freely available. And not only is it freely available, you guys put a lot of resources into that open source offering to make sure it's always up and available. And, you basically treat it like it's a paid product, even though you're offering it for free. And I just think that's insanely awesome. And so I just really want to promote that and how awesome that is that you guys do that. And it's a brilliant model, because all it does is get you interested in the concept and the technology, which is a perfect feeder to deploying your actual hardware and virtual canaries, which I've used countless times. And I'm going to tell one quick story because it's relevant. Was running a booth when we were part of Recon InfoSec. We were running a booth at a security conference, and I won't name the company because I don't have permission to say this on their behalf. But we were running it next to a more offensive focused company, and the founder of that company came over and had a chat with us about a recent pen test engagement that their team had done on one of our customers. And he came over to basically give a handshake and a, hey, congratulations, you guys crushed us. And he knew why we crushed him. It was the first alert, the first detection we got on the pen test that happened in that environment was a canary firing. And so it was just a huge victory. And so he was kind of applauding our use of the deception tech, and our secret weapon was Thinkst. So anyway, I'll stop pitching and promoting. That's how excited I get about your platform and your product. And I just think you guys are an awesome company doing awesome things. So Haroon, thank you for joining us today. Would love to hear what's on your mind and what you can share with our audience today.
Man, after an intro like that, I'm not sure there's anything I can say to live up to it. Thanks for having me. It's cool to be here. In terms of the stuff we do, like if you talk about the open source stuff, one of the things I was hoping to talk about today is just why more people should do stuff like that. So it's super informal. I don't have slides or anything like that. So scream and stop me for anything. But the CarnaryTokens thing, I actually gave a presentation on it a few years back at Usenix. And the whole point of the presentation was, like if you look at the simplest canary token, right, which is a web bug. Like you come to us, we give you a URL. If that URL gets hit, we tell you it got hit. Like everyone who can string together remedial Perl, Python, Go can make this happen in an hour. And one of the things is, though, that we did. And so you start with that, and then you go, well, okay, if we can do this for an HTTP request, we can do this for a DNS request. We can give you a DNS host name, and if it's looked up, we can tell you it's been looked up. And if you just start with that and put it out and make it reliable, like a few cool things happen. In our case, we had people in the company who started going, well, if we're doing that, then we can do this other thing. Like you can embed them in a Word doc, or you can embed them in a PDF, and you'll get coolness. And then you get more coolness because you get people like, firstly, we start getting people using it, and you get people on the other side of the world saying, listen, we had no idea we were owned. Like we had this on a web server and found out we were getting hits from Russia a whole while later. And over time, you start to see that stuff go totally in its own direction. So after a little while, we got a ping from Colin Mulliner saying, listen, like, I think we can use these Canary tokens to detect reverse engineering. Like he is very into binaries for big company. And if you embed these tokens in them, you can tell when your binary is being reverse engineered. And you start to get people who you'd really like to work with, people who you always thought were heroes, now contributing to your thing. You get really cool companies talking about it. You get companies like you folks using us. And almost all that stuff starts with, I think I have a cool idea. Let me build it and put it out there. And more than anything, over the past few years, the thing that I've been getting on soapboxes and ranting about is that more people should just do that. And the two big things that I'm heavily for, I think defense is the more exciting place to play in InfoSec at the moment. Like I think offense often gets a lot of shouts, but I think there's lots of coolness to be done in defense at the moment. And I think defenders who are innovative and put in the time and effort, there's coolness to be done. And in particular, I'm a big fan of making stuff. Like almost the reason our company exists is to make stuff and learn. And so you were talking about the open sourcing the stuff or putting stuff out for free. Honestly, one of the big things for us is we just like people using our stuff. Like so for things like Canary tokens, we get crazy joy from hearing like these are how many people are using it, or these many people actually caught attackers. And so we're pretty fortunate at this point because like Canary makes us enough money so that we can pay the bills and survive and do cool stuff. And then we get to work on cool stuff that actually has an effect in the world. And we're not complete hippies. Like we like money and we want to build a company that survives. But if you get lucky, then all of the stuff almost ends up in this positive loop. So now if we're speaking to young engineers coming out of college, like they can go work at a bank and make interfaces for the bank for the next 10 years, or they can help us build a token that last year had 2 million users use it. And so that stuff starts to work really nicely. Like you mentioned, there's lots of times we go to a customer and the customer says, oh, I already use your stuff. And we go like, yes, that's our free stuff. Like, here's our other stuff. Like, have you seen it? And they already have some level of trust because they've been using our tokens and tokens have caught people for them. So yeah, so far that stuff works. And if you're very, very lucky, you end up with a group of people who you want to hang with, even if you weren't working with them. And so yeah, at this point we're pretty fortunate. Like almost all those stars have aligned nicely for us. Customers like us, the product works nicely. We've got a team that enjoy building stuff and enjoy defenders winning, and it ends up creating a loop that almost forces us to behave well. Like even if we all turned evil, it would just be bad business to be evil at this point. Like being good works for us. The market rewards it. It would be stupid not to do it that way. In fact, for company stuff, we often surprised when companies do turn evil and gougy just because it seems like a terrible business idea. So yeah, for the most part, we keep it simple. We try to do the right thing. And we try to build stuff that helps defenders win. I see Ross has joined us. Hi, Ross.
And Haroon, I mean, honestly, it's a brilliant model because I was using the free Canaries for years, before, becoming a paying customer back when I was a paying customer. And you're exactly right. Like it kind of makes it available, first of all. So you're lowering the barrier for defenders that want to take a more proactive position without having budget be the limiting factor, which is a huge kind of mission statement, right? You're saying, hey, defenders should be able to defend, even if they don't have bottomless pockets to buy all the fancy stuff that's being advertised in the vendor hall. And I think that's incredible, right? And I wish more organizations were like that. Lima Charlie, we have a similar ethos. We have a free tier of our platform, meaning you can use all features, all capabilities of the platform, and it's not a trial; it's indefinite, because we want, hey, get in there, tinker with it, play with it. But yeah, of course, we're all here to build businesses, but I think that sort of kind of product-led growth is really effective when the solution is sound, when it's a really strong solution, which you guys have definitely done something incredible there.
So thanks. So I speak to lots of founders from young security companies, and the thing that you say is super important, because you get people who look at all the stuff and see it as a kind of way to goose the market. Like, if we do this, we'll get PLG going, and then we can do all of this. And like, for the most part, if you're doing it as a temporary growth hack, you'll run into a wall at some point. Like, at some point, there's going to be, but if we include this, let's hold this back so we can charge for the other thing. For us, genuinely, the stuff has split really neatly. Like we almost get complaints in the other direction, because quite often, most often, we release stuff free before we include it in our paid product. So I can't think of many times that we've ever done a thing where we went, this is really good, let's hold it back, so that only the paid customers get it. There's almost two very clearly different streams that say, this is a really valuable thing and we can help defenders win. And this is a thing that people pay us for that helps defenders win. And what they're paying us for in that instance is taking away a whole other set of worries. Like, we make it easy, we make it reliable, we sort that whole thing out. And yeah, I think one of the big things for most security companies to figure out is that they don't have to grab every dollar that's on the table. And again, I say it while pointing out, we're not complete hippies. We want to win. We want to make good money. We want to build a sustainable company. But I don't think that needs people to get user hostile. And often those two things get horribly confused. So more than anything else at the company, like if you ever read any of our stuff, you'll see us use the word love a lot. But like, the stuff runs deeply in the company. Like everyone who's building stuff works really hard to make sure, like is this something that shows love? Like you can throw this and give the user a dial, but like, can't we put a little more care in it? Like, can't we figure that stuff out? And what's cool is, again, if you get that right, the company kind of rallies around that flag. And I think companies rally around the flags that you put up, right? So if you make it about making the quarter and making every dollar, then that's what the company does. And if you make it about really solving customer problems and getting customers to love you, then that's what the direction the company will grow in. And so far, that's been working nicely for us.
Yeah, I think you guys figured out how to get your customers to love you.
Nice.
I just realized completely by happenstance, I had my Thinkst hoodie sitting on the chair next to me. That's incredible, Haroon. Like, seriously, I can't speak highly enough about having kind of a mission that's focused on helping defenders first, right? But of course, we all have the mission of building sustainable companies, right? And I think you guys have taken a really admirable approach to that I hope others would kind of take a signal from, right? To kind of learn from, the way that you guys have approached this. So Haroon, can you, for folks that maybe are less familiar with kind of, ways that they can start using, Thinkst Canary tokens today for immediate effect, like, what would you recommend as like a way to get started leveraging the platform?
Yeah. So quickly, for split between the two. So Canaries act like entire operating systems. You drop them on your network. they look like a mainframe or machine. Attackers on your network have to look around during the reconnaissance phase, they find them. Canary tokens are smaller, almost tripwires. So you visit CanaryTokens.org, choose your token, we give you one, you place it somewhere. Now, that sounds super vague because on the Canary token site, there's something like 20 tokens that you can put down. And if you take the simplest two tokens that I mentioned, like an HTTP token or DNS token, someone visits that link, you get a hit, and you know that they're there. If you had to choose one token right now, like the token that I love, if you go to CanaryTokens.org and you'll choose the AWS Canary token, like for people who've never used it, you visit us, we'll give you a valid working AWS API key. And on the site, you put in your email address, which is where you'll be notified when there's an alert, and you put in a little memo. So you put in Eric's desktop. And the point behind it is we give you a working AWS key, you store it on Eric's desktop, and the whole point is after that, you just forget about it. And the thinking behind it is when Eric's eventually compromised, it doesn't matter where he's compromised, a local coffee shop, someone pulling a ridiculous attack with one of his new podcasting equipment, so his microphone gets firmware owned, person is now on his desktop. The point is that attackers are there because they want stuff. And so an attacker who now finds their way onto his desktop and sees working AWS API key just has to try it. And the moment they try it, you get a message saying, listen, the AWS API key that you said you left on Eric's desktop just got used. And I like using the AWS API key example because it resets people's thinking in a whole bunch of ways. Canary tokens are designed so that you don't have to think hard about them for too long. Like go to the site, make 20 of them, put one on your domain controller, one on your backup server, one on your code signing server. Do it now after the call and forget about it for years. And 2 years from now, when you having your SolarWinds moment, when somebody lands on your code signing server, there's almost no way for someone to see an AWS API key without saying, let me just see what's behind this. And the moment they try it, you get that message saying, listen, this key on that server that's in the basement just got used. And things start to unravel from there. So if you take a look at the tokens, you'll find them span across the board. So we've got tokens, you can put them on your website and they tell you when your website's cloned. We've just released one that works with CSS that tells you when your Azure is being man in the middle. So you'll find bunches of them, but the logic from us is always tokens should be quick to deploy. They should require no overhead from you. And they should let you know when you're about to have the worst week of your life. And that's the whole pitch. There's tons of talks on them. We've written blog posts. So one of the things we do, tokens almost become a way for us to experiment with defensive ideas. So we see a cool thing, we figure a cool way that we can alert on it. We try to build it as a token. And then we'll do a small write-up on how we built it and what can be done. And so lots of these ideas people can take and make use of even without Canary tokens inside of their org. Someone mentioned command execution tokens.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Casey, who works with us, put it out there. And again, the logic there is on your servers, there's a set of commands that typically only attackers run. So I know it was who am I is an internet meme just about, but there's bunches of them, right? That only attackers typically run. And so you can get instrumentation saying, listen, on the server where this shouldn't be running, it just ran. It's high quality signal, and you know that there's badness. So yeah, for someone new, I'd really suggest check out CanaryTokens.org. We've got a guide with a list of canaries and canary tokens. So if you go to canary.tools/guide, There's a little booklet almost in narrative form of ways to drop canaries or drop canary tokens, and it just gives you sample ways that you can use them, which should give people ideas for coolness that they can do.
Yeah, it's super awesome. I know one of my favorite use cases in the past was consulting with other organizations and kind of advising them on strategies to leverage Canaries tokens this way. Right. Have one of the members of the executive team send an email to another member of the executive team with a very convincing body and everything of the email. Hey, this is a link to our mergers acquisitions strategy for next year. And then make sure the two know, hey, this is not a legitimate email, so don't open it. Don't click the link. Let it get buried in that CFO's inbox, right? Because when the CFO inevitably gets compromised as part of that BEC campaign, that link's getting clicked.
Exactly right.
By whoever captures that inbox.
And once you start playing with them, with both canaries and tokens, like the idea sounds rough. Like you might strain a little to like where would it be useful? And once you start playing with them, you start to see possibilities for them absolutely everywhere. Like let's put it in an old Slack message. Like someone who owns you is gonna search Slack for it. Like let's put it in a Confluence server. Let's put it on a zip file 3 steps deep. And of course, we try to stop people from getting carried away, because one of the mistakes people make is where if they take it and instrument things that are going to get picked on a lot. And that's the opposite of what you want, right? You want stuff that's not going to fire often, because the last thing you want is lots of alerts. So literally, we have canaries and tokens that are deployed and forgotten about for a year, for 2 years. And then when they go off, it's like, okay, now there's a problem. Now we need to do something about it. But yeah, check out the guide. Shoot us a question. If anyone has them, we'll happily hit you back. You mentioned we support it exactly like a paid product. We do that for everything we put out. Again, in part because we want our stuff to get used. And so we get a huge joy from the stuff actually catching attackers in the wild. For us, it absolutely wins. Jeff is on a flight that's about to take off. That is amazing.
Jeff is committed.
That's impressive.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Haroon, so this is, I think, our biggest Defender Fridays yet since we launched. So obviously, nice. A lot of folks showing up to hear from you. So that's super cool. That's super cool. Yeah, I mean, folks, I can't tell you like how fun it is. Like defenders, so often defenders are down in the trenches doing things that are not exactly fun, right? You're tuning signatures and you're trying to write new detections, and you're reading threat intel reports. You're triaging an alert that maybe it's a big deal, maybe it's not a big deal, and you're looking at phishing emails, right? These things get old. They get old. There's nothing I think more fun for a defender than switching into the deception sort of approach. Like I want to set traps. I want to have little decoys that are going to give me an early warning. It's just a more fun activity in general. You get to feel kind of like James Bond, setting up your little.
Well, it's interesting to get.
I would much rather do spy versus spy than more state compliance.
Well, it's interesting. Well, one of the big things that I think, one of the reasons attackers win so often, and it's something we've spoken about, but it's because they have tight feedback loops, right? So if an attacker tries to break in and it doesn't work, they know immediately. And so they have to up their game. And for lots of the activities that defenders do, you do stuff, but you don't see results for a really long time. And sometimes you never see results. And stuff like this that says, well, if this worked, we should pick up activity, starts to make the game more interesting. And it's something that as a company, we are trying to hone in on a little more. So if we ever hear about, in fact, if you take the sensitive command token, if I'm not mistaken, its genesis in the company was literally Casey going through DFIR reports going, here were common attacks. Like, how would we have got in the middle of this? Like what would have happened on these published DFIR attacks for us to make a detection? And he went down the command execution rabbit hole. So yeah, I think there's fun to be had for defenders. We just have to look at it that way.
I want to capitalize this. If anybody else has any questions or any other topics, feel free to speak up, folks. Well, we've got Haroon here.
I know Ross had some questions too.
He's probably got a long list of them.
No, I don't. Haroon. You know I'm going to take the conversation off the rails, Liz.
Ross and I have been having conversations offline in terms of funding and company operating models and stuff like that. So I'm just teasing him. I'm just scanning the chat. If there's a question in the chat, scream it out, and I'll happily hit it.
Haroon, I know something I'd love to hear about. If you have anything in mind you could share. I know you guys get a lot of customer feedbacks about, oh, we caught a threat actor, because I see you guys posted about that all the time on social. Is there one story that comes to mind is just maybe the one of the most interesting or most kind of just, just unusual situations or just something compelling that you guys have heard from a customer, just story time a little bit?
So it's interesting, and the thing, the stuff that I say here will be completely weird, but it'll be an unusual insight into building a product. When we started, we were terrified that people wouldn't trust us, because like we were giving them this random box and saying, hey, stick it on your network, and we won't do stuff with it. And so we really aimed the company really hard at making people feel comfortable that we were never going to look at their stuff. Like we didn't even want the conversation to come up that says, these boxes, can we control them? Do we have access to them? And so the company does nothing with, initially, we absolutely never went near the alerts. And 2 years in, we started figuring out, well, hold on, we can actually add support to customers, we can help them with stuff, and we started touching things a little bit. But one of the side effects of that is we'd have customers come up to us and tell us really great stories, like down to, we kicked down this door and found these people in the server room and had them arrested, to really nice cases of police forces using the stuff, catching sexual predators.
Anonymizing Tor users.
Yeah, exactly. And it's stuff that we weren't even aware of. And at some point they come and say like, hey, we use the stuff heavily for this. Like, do you know, like, can we do this? And then we're like, okay, we can help you with more of this. And so those things are almost always a super pleasant surprise. One of the things that we find unusual is that we hear most of those stories face to face at conferences and booths. So for some reason, people feel comfortable walking up to you and saying, hey, here's a thing we did, and we didn't know about it before that. I think one of the stories that stick out in our mind is super early on, CarnaryTokens alone, was Amnesty International used it to unmask the Iranian government who were going after dissidents. And again, it was one of those things that we had no idea about. It turns out that sometimes the government forgot to turn off their VPNs when they were attacking dissidents. And tokens helped tie the links between all of them. So yeah, all of that stuff's great. For us internally, it absolutely makes our day because again, it becomes stuff that we can celebrate. So we'll talk about the wins, we'll share the wins. Yeah.
You've got to. There's no better reminder of why you do what you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it builds the company around the right stuff. So everyone in the company is looking for those kind of wins, trying to make it easier. And that stuff goes from like, can we invent cool ways to catch people? But also like, can we make this not suck? Like, can we make this so that people actually use our stuff? Like I think security products for a long time have gotten away with sucking on bunches of different paths. So we didn't think UX mattered. We didn't think usability mattered. And like, even if you make great tools and nobody uses them, then you haven't solved anything. So we try to focus pretty hard on all of it because we want to be used, because we want to help people win. And without it, we're not gonna.
Well, Haroon, thank you so much. That takes us to the top of the hour. These things are always, they're just not long enough, right as it's getting amazing. But hey, really quick, before everybody hops off, first of all, thank you so much for joining us, Haroon. Hey, something that we're going to start doing, folks, on Defender Fridays is we're going to export the attendees list. At the end of each show, we're going to pick a random person out of the attendees list to send a Defender Fridays shirt to. So one of our folks on the back end has already done that export, selected our random winner. So hopefully you're still on the call. Antonio Giordano, if you want us to send you a shirt in the mail, jump in our Slack, send me a DM with your shipping information, and we'll get that thing out to you. And we're going to do that now every Friday. So random lucky person in the crowd. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining us. Next week, we got Chris Crowley coming on to talk about SOC operations. So hope to see you all then. Have a great Friday and a fantastic weekend, folks.
Bye, folks. Thanks so much for having me.